You are watching On Demand. Please do not try to vote or enter any competition or other interactivity in this programme, as it may not count and you may still be charged.
And welcome to your Wednesday edition of Loose Women. Joining me, Jane Moore, for an hour of lunchtime chat. It's Katie Piper, Janet Street-Porter and Linda Robson. Coming up...
I think one of the worst things is the terrible loneliness that you get from having him here but not here. It's really indescribable.
In tough scenes on TV last night, we witnessed Kate Garraway caring for husband Derek. It's a harsh reality shared by millions of unpaid carers every day, and we're going to be reflecting on that at 12:45. And...
I need to talk to the top 12 shareholders in the next 30 minutes. An emergency board meeting ASAP, and they'll be rolling through till next week, okay?
He plays media mogul Logan Roy in smash hit drama Succession, and he's had starring roles in Bourne Identity, Braveheart and Troy, to name just a few. Brian Cox is live in the studio to tell us about his incredible life story, on screen and off. And at 1:15, would you confront a neighbour who was doing noisy housework at 4 a.m? Our views coming up. But first... Dragon's Den star Deborah Meaden has divided opinion over her decision to keep wearing face coverings. Posting this picture on Twitter, she said that she'll continue to wear a mask today and every day until, she says, I hear a science-based argument on why wearing a mask is no longer needed to protect those more vulnerable than me. What do you think about that, Janet?
Well, Deborah's entitled to her opinions, but I think most people are now very, very confused about whether we're meant to be wearing a mask or not. And just looking at the newspapers this morning, I see that most supermarkets are still asking people to wear masks and sanitise their hands when they enter the stores. But then a lot of shops are not bothering. So I'm confused. And when you go on the London Underground, up till today, you were meant to be wearing a mask, but I think that's going to change. I don't know what a mask really does now, but I think the result of the last 2 years is that a lot of older people are terrified to take their masks off. And I frequently see people walking around the street, both in London and in countryside towns, wearing a mask in the open air. And I feel like saying, please take it off, because I think that we've become almost too fearful. And I don't really know what a mask does. I mean, in a crowded room or on a crowded train carriage, well, yes, it might stop you if you're coughing and sneezing, giving germs to other people.
I mean, there's loads of different science, journals and websites, obviously, but I was looking on nature.com, and they sort of basically say that a mask, there is evidence that it can reduce transmission both sort of at you and from you. But I agree. I mean, in a way, I suppose it's about personal choice, isn't it? And yes, Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, has said actually that now a face covering will no longer be a condition of carriage, but they still recommend it. So I suppose it'll be the same with the signs on the doors of shops, is that what they now can't do is, if you choose not to wear a face covering, they can't say to you that you have to. Because those sort of national guidelines have now gone. Where are you on this, Linda?
Oh, well, I think it's up to the individual, really. I mean, obviously, older people, more vulnerable people, feel more comfortable wearing masks than that. I mean, I have one with me all the time, and if I was going to the theatre or maybe the cinema, then maybe I'd wear one because there's a lot of people around and that. But I just think it's up to you, really. I mean, we've had 2 years of having to wear masks. I'll always have one in my pocket just in case, or in my bag. But I won't be wearing one out in the open, definitely not.
No, I do think that's... I think you're right, Janet. It's become such a sort of a condition of life almost, isn't it? I think it's going to take people a long time to actually get to the point that they take them off. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, Deborah's opinion doesn't offend me. We all have different opinions. That's how she feels, and that's fine. I mean, I'm quite similar to Linda, where I carry it because I have to go to a lot of appointments in hospitals, and I don't want to get turned away for not having one. But I just think it's at your discretion. I support it not being mandatory.
Yeah. Well, one place we will have to keep wearing masks for a while longer is on planes, but there's one thing that they can't protect us from. I don't know if you all saw in the newspapers today, Elton John was left very shaken this week when his plane, pictured here, developed a major fault amidst 80-mile-an-hour winds. And it had 3 attempts at landing. Now, the jet suffered a hydraulic failure at 10,000 feet, which was, I think, about an hour into the flight. God, well, I suppose lucky Elton that he managed to land, but unlucky it must have been pretty upsetting.
And then he immediately got off the plane and got on a scheduled flight to New York because he was doing a show at Madison Square Gardens and didn't want to miss it. So, full marks.
Have you been on being on a plane with turbulence is terrifying?
I've been on a plane with Elton and he's really calm. Much calmer than me. But years ago, I was in Mexico doing a photo story for a colour magazine with my husband, who was the photographer, and we'd gone to Bing Crosby's house in Baja California. We borrowed, someone lent us a little Cessna plane, a small propeller plane, to go there because you couldn't get there by road. Anyway, when we came to return, it was a brand new plane and the landing gear wouldn't engage. That's the wheels, so that you could land, glide in and then the wheels come down. And so we had to fly around for 2 hours, dumping fuel, using up the fuel which was in the wings till they got the accident gear and the fire engines on the runway. And during that time, it seemed to take forever and ever and ever. I wrote my will by opening up a film carton and writing it on the inside. And then I had to lie in the tail of the plane with all the weight to hold the tail down.
Were you scared?
I went through being scared and came out the other side.
Yeah.
I went through thinking about dying to, well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And then we banged onto the runway and the plane was left impaled in the runway and we had to jump out.
I mean, it's funny, actually, because I was reading an air website thing and they said that turbulence isn't actually dangerous. It's just what it does to you. Mid-air turbulence is not dangerous. It's just that it's psychologically, it sort of terrifies you. And there's lots of reports about how people behave on flights when they're scared. And the biggest percentage is that a lot of people just sort of sit there paralysed, waiting to be told what to do. What about you?
Stewardesses or the stewards, I always look to see how if they're panicking, then I'll panic. But I was coming back from Cyprus. We'd been away for 2 weeks. We had a lovely holiday. Me, Lauren, Louis and Bobby, my mum as well. We got on a plane and it was fine, took off, and probably about an hour into it, I heard the little boy in front of me saying, "We're turning round." I thought, oh, shut up, what does he know? Anyway, we turned around, gone back to Cyprus Airport, landed, and as we got off the plane, we saw someone hammering under the plane. And Lauren was like, "I'm not getting back on that plane." And she's all dressed, ready to go clubbing, showing off her suntan when she got back to England and that. Anyway, eventually we got on it and we did manage to land safely, although our luggage went to another airport or something. I don't know what happened, but we never got our luggage.
Well, let's get away from this doom and gloom. Linda,
I think you turned into Biggins. You were name-dropping there, weren't you?
Yeah.
Elton John,
Bing
Crosby.
mentioned Elton because I have actually
Bing
been
Crosby. That's 2. Let's see how many more you do. Go on.
Right, button it, you. I thought you might like the story. I read it in one of the newspapers this morning. We've got Love Island here, but in China, they've got the dating shows for people over 65, and they're really, really popular because 25% of the population is in that age group. It's a bit like this country. And I was thinking, well, why haven't we got it here?
Would you take part?
Well, it depends if I have to strip off or not. But
it's more like
the Chinese show, they ask each other really, really sensible questions, like, have you got your own teeth? What medication are you on?
Have you written a will?
Yeah, have you written a will? And people talk about their pension plan and stuff like that. Not just
it's like OAP, Love Island, isn't it, really? I think it's a great idea because there's lots of older people.
Hello.
Is this the audition?
There's lots of older people out there that are lonely. They've either lost their partner or they've got divorced or whatever. And I think older people are more interested anyway. They've lived their life and they're not interested in doing selfies every 5 minutes and doing their makeup and can you take a picture? Can you hold the camera up there? I think
it would be interesting, though, as you say, about the different questions you ask if you're then back out dating in older life, because what you want from somebody changes, doesn't it, Katie?
Yeah, I think you probably know more of what you don't want and what you do want when you've lived a little. And I think it's really ageist to assume that you don't want a physical relationship still and you're not looking for love. And I think you're right, it's probably harder to meet people when you get to that age.
Yeah.
And you saw how many people in that bracket were so lonely in lockdown. So I think it's great. I'd ring up and vote and watch it. You know?
You vote and watch it. I've got 2 requirements. Must have a pulse and no nasty feet.
Yes, no fungal infections.
I think we just have to have foot shots.
Does that include us, though, as well? No. You don't want to look at my feet at the moment, that's for sure.
Oh, well, I thought we were getting off grisly subject.
OK, still to come today, we're talking noisy neighbours. Succession star Brian Cox is here, and in just a moment, accepting what she calls a different kind of love, why Kate Garraway's Caring for Derek documentary has prompted a conversation about the 6.5 million unpaid carers looking after loved ones in Britain. Our thoughts on that next. Nice to see you again. Coming up, is it OK to do the hoovering and the washing at 4 a.m? Now then, which one of us do you think is guilty of doing that? Not very hard, that one, is it? And acting royalty Brian Cox is live with us here in the studio. Very, very excited about that. Competition time first, though, and how do you fancy being in with the chance of winning not just £90,000 in cash, but having £30,000 to put towards a car? If it does kick fancy, then Craig Doyle has all you need to know.
Hello all from the Three Choirs Vineyard in Gloucestershire. We have an absolute corker for you this week. Yeah, there's more puns coming. It's a lot of money. Yeah, not too shabbily. Had enough? Sure, here are the details. This week, you've the chance to win not only an enormous £90,000 in totally tax-free cash, but you'll also win another £30,000 to buy a new car.
Martin, I am surprised, because who would have thought this part of the world?
We've been here a long time. We've been here for 50 years.
So what do you make here? What wine?
Some sparkling, and we do a little bit of rosé and a bit of red wine now as well. So there's a broad spectrum for you.
It'd be best if I just try them all, don't you think?
For your chance to win, text WIN to 86060. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Go to the website, entries cost £2. Call 09068 786060. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and phone number to DY08, PO Box 7558, Derby, DE10NQ. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close on Friday, the 25th of March at 3 p.m.
To us, to you, to the competition, very best of luck. Someone's driving, yeah? Excellent. I'll finish this off. We're in good shape.
Top of the morning.
Thanks, Craig. Now, viewers were left in tears last night after watching the ITV documentary Kate Garraway, Caring for Derek. Filming began just as Derek arrived home from hospital after 374 days. The programme laid bare Kate's realities of looking after her husband at home and the emotional toll it has taken on her.
I think one of the worst things is the terrible loneliness that you get from having him here but not here. It's really indescribable, actually. I don't know, it's just so hard because I can sort of see him, but he's absent and you just feel very much on your own.
Oh, I just want to reach into the screen and give her a hug, don't you? It was a tough watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, I watched it last night with Richie and we were both moved to tears. I think it's really heartbreaking to see what Kate and her children have been through. And I think throughout the whole pandemic, you know, she held it together, she was working, and she's been really, really courageous and dignified. And, you know, seeing what she says in that clip there, it just really reminds you that, yes, Derek's back, but he's back as a shell of his former self. And I think, she's a single parent, you know, and that's what she's doing. She's holding it together in the public eye at work, the breadwinner. She's holding it together for the children, pretending that everything's okay. And, you know, it's clearly not.
Yeah. It sort of highlights, doesn't it, also the different types of, because you could be caring for an elderly parent, obviously she's caring for her husband, you could be caring for a child. I mean, there's 6.5 million people in the UK now are unpaid carers. And Janet, I think Kate would be the first to say that she's probably, you know, in a more privileged position than three, but she's sort of using her story to highlight how hard it is for everybody.
I think what came across in the documentary, that even she, high-profile Kate Garraway, couldn't get through to a GP and was left hanging on for hours. And I think, speaking from, you know, conversations I've had with my friends who've had to care for their ageing parents, how you put together the care that your parent or your elderly relative might need is challenging for really, really challenging for most people. And you are going to have to pay for some of it, and that causes you immense worry and concern. And then your relationship with that person, because you're in the house together 24 hours a day, and more people are coming in, like you saw in Kate's house, even in Kate's house, carers are coming in shifts, and a physio's coming in, and people are working with Derek to try and move him on a tiny fraction.
It sort of throws a hand grenade into everything you thought you knew about your life.
Yeah, I think the other thing that came across, and one of the carers says this in the film, that when you're caring for someone you're so close to, you put them first. And the result is that can be that you're forgetting about yourself and you're not looking after yourself.
We've got a clip of that, I think. Let's have a quick look.
How's Kate doing?
I think Kate is an unbelievable woman. But there is a part of care that is called self-neglect, where individuals pay too much attention in the well-being of their family member or partner, that they even forget about taking care of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, self-care is important, Linda, isn't it? Because obviously if you fall off the perch as well, it's not going to help anyone.
Well, Kate lived in the same road as me, so I know Kate quite well, and Derek and the kids and that. I used to dropping the kids to school every morning and picking them up in the afternoon and that. But it must be so difficult, honestly, because they'd been together a long time. And obviously, during lockdown, he's been in hospital most of the time, and she's had to be the one going to work and looking after the kids, and now he's home. That's another person she's got to look after. I know she's got help in that, but it can never be. I mean, you saw her in the laundry room, she's having to do so much washing and looking after them and that. But I mean, we've all been carers at some time in our life, and we will be carers at some, like if it's caring for your children or caring for elderly, like parents, like, because my mum had dementia and she went into a home, but at first she was at home and we were looking after my sisters, and me would take it in turns of a night to sleep with her, and then she went into a hospice, and then we'd go there every day to see her. But it was just, it's the hardest time watching someone that you love, and obviously they love each other, just deteriorate in front of you, and knowing that that person's probably never going to get better again.
It's hard to know that, I mean, I'm sure, you know, the pandemic has made everything a whole lot worse, of course, but it's hard to know what the solution is, because I think a lot of people, you know, they pay into the system all their lives.
Yeah.
And then they sort of think, you know, well, OK, I am going to be able to access services when I need them.
But the councils have all cut back on services, plus you, as Kate says in the documentary, you've got to access all different services. So what I'd like, I think Kate's done a great job of raising awareness, but what I'd like to see happen now is that if she can bear it, to make another documentary helping people understand how to access care, and also bringing pressure on the government and councils to make it easier and more financially.
Yeah, because if you think it's a tough time anyway, isn't it? And having to navigate those complex systems.
And it being your partner, you know, this like moral dilemma of the vows you take, you know, for sickness and in health, and those dynamics changing in that relationship, you know, wrongly attaching this guilt to that, of handing over that duty to someone else. Like, I can understand why she's done what she's done. She's tried to be everything to everybody, and it's exhausting. Like that carer said, it takes its toll, and, you know, she needs to fill herself back up to be able to take care of those kids as well.
I mean, as she herself said, you know, I mean, everybody kind of wants to care for the people that they love. And she said, I see it as a privilege, but it is so important to look after yourself. But, you know, another alarming statistic, 600 people in the UK give up work every single day to care for an older or disabled relative. You know, that is a statistic that tells you very much that it's a big issue.
I think it's important to say that our heart goes out to Kate and to all the carers out there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, really admire her.
No, absolutely. Well, if you've been affected by Kate's story or you're struggling to care for a loved one and are looking for help, all of the information you need is on our website. Or you can call Carers UK on 0207 378 4999. That's on the screen now, just in case you want it. And you can give them a call for advice. Now, we have lots more debates to come this lunchtime, a shocking story of a very noisy neighbour, and the A-list celebrities snubbed from their friend's wedding party. But coming up, this is very exciting. Here's the head of the dysfunctional dynasty that is the Roy family in smash hit drama Succession. Actor Brian Cox tells us how his childhood shaped the man he is today. He's joining us at this desk right after this. Welcome back to your midweek Loose Women, or is it midlife? Not you, Katie, obviously. Giving their say to you on all the top talking points of the day. With me, Jay Moore, it's Katie Piper, Linda Robson and Janet Street-Porter. We've got two juicy debates on the way at 1:15. Is it OK to do noisy housework at 4 a.m? And would you be offended if you were only invited to the evening do at your friend's wedding? But first, here's the star of stage and screen, who shot from humble beginnings to become one of the most highly acclaimed actors of his generation. But if you don't know him from his world-renowned Shakespearean performances or his many Hollywood film roles, you'll definitely know him as the ruthless patriarch and media mogul at the centre of the Roy family drama in Sky drama Succession.
My family have disappeared. I need to know where everyone is and what everyone's thinking.
As I understand it, you want to take down your dad without implicating yourself.
Correct.
And without damaging the company to the extent that you lose control at your shareholder meeting.
Do you have an actual case, Ken? Yes, I can kill her. Is he gonna watch?
Could we make a note in the minutes that he's watching us?
There's blood in the water. Sharks are coming.
I thought my family was dysfunctional. This is next level.
This life is not for everyone. It's a number on a piece of paper. It's a fight for a knife in the mud.
We are delighted to welcome Brian Cox. Welcome, welcome.
Hi.
This is very exciting. We're obviously going to talk about Succession a bit later on. But first of all, I wanted to talk about the main reason why you're here, your book.
Yeah.
Putting the Rabbit in the Hat. Now, I have read a lot of showbiz autobiographies in my time, and this one is sensational for many, many reasons, not least the honesty. You're very honest about your own failings, but you're also quite honest about a lot of the people that you've worked with and what you think. Well, obviously you're complimentary about a lot of them, but if you don't particularly rate them, you've said so. Have you had any pushback in the sort of showbiz lovey world?
Oh, tell me about it. Particularly the Johnny Depp fan club, you know. And I discovered actually it's not even from individuals; it's from some kind of
cyberbot.
Well, it's some sort of Johnny Depp Protection Society, who is sort of kind of.
He's been very busy at night on his laptop.
Been doing stuff about, you know, and I've stopped looking at it, you know. It's But actually, I've actually written an addendum, which I had written before the book went out, and I was trying to get it in because when I was reviewing the book, I thought, oh, I'm a bit sharp here and there. You know, I go for the easy gag.
Right, that's the understatement.
Yeah, I go for the easy gag, and I thought, you know. So I wrote this addendum where I kind of redressed that, but unfortunately it didn't go out. It is going out in paperback in July, which I'm very pleased about, because the whole premise of the book is a conversation.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you talk and you interrupt it, and I get distracted, and I go over here, and I said, just, can you hang on to that thought? I'm going to come back, and then I come back to it, and the whole thing has a kind of organic thing about it, and that was what was important to me about writing the book. And I did have a ghost to help me kind of organise the thing, but it was very important that it was my voice and my voice talking.
Yeah, and I think it totally is your voice. And also, I think with honesty, then when you are saying something in praise of somebody, it has more meaning because it's not all just kind of, you know, showbiz fluff.
No, I try to avoid the showbiz fluff.
Apart from your good self, the other character in the book I'm fascinated by is your mother.
Oh, yeah.
Molly, who I know was Mary Ann, but you knew her as Molly. And I don't know, I felt a real sadness because you wrote about her feeling... She had a life in service in Canada and then obviously ended up getting married and having children. And you say she felt thwarted in life.
Well, I think it was a condition of many women in the first half of the 20th century. I mean, it's still been a condition of women, you know, still. But it was particularly acute with 2 world wars, the Depression, and women who were just fundamentally baby-making machines, you know, and regarded as such. And I think my mother was more than that, but she had never had that. I mean, I found a letter from my mum.
There they are, there's the picture.
There they are,
Dad Chick.
when they were young people. And I found a letter from my mum, which was actually part of her diary, and it was talking about my father's passing. And it was so beautifully written that I could see that she was a writer, you know, that she could write. And I thought, and also I had an aunt who actually, well, deep bone of contention, but my mother had all these writings, and my mother was illegitimate, and my aunt looked at all this and she threw it in the fire.
Oh no!
She burnt all my mum's writings, and of course,
thwarted again.
Yeah, I just made me so angry. So the one thing I wanted to do was really celebrate my ma and put her in context.
You paint such a fabulously detailed story about your childhood in Dundee, but I mean, I found the book unputdownable, and I mean, I'm not easily pleased. I like the fact you
Well, if you liked it, that means a lot to me.
Right, well, I liked it. You had a little mini pop at Michael Caine in the first chapter. I thought, oh my God, national treasure. But,
no, well, I've actually redressed that.
Oh, you have redressed
I
the
have
Michael
redressed
Caine.
that considerably, actually.
But one of the funniest things about your childhood is your mother asked your dad to go and register your birth.
Oh, that's right.
And you were supposed to be called...
I was supposed to be called Colin.
Colin?
My mother, I was supposed to be called Colin. My dad he wasn't sure about the name, and he went off to the registrar office, and the registrar, and he said, so what's the laddie's name? And she said, Colin. Oh, that's an awful name. You got a better name than that. And my dad said, well, no, I mean, it's my wife. She likes the name. Oh, no, you can't have the name Colin. Come on, what do you think? What was your thought? He said, well, I quite like the name Brian. That's a great name, call him Brian. And then he went through, he said, what about a middle name? Like a D, should we go for a D? What about a Donald or a Douglas? And then he came up with the name Dennis, so I'm actually Brian Dennis Cox. And then it's not reported because I think my mother was still getting over my birth, so she was probably in a kind of morphine haze when he went back to see her and told her that Colin was now Brian.
I have to apologise to all the Collins watching.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny enough, my niece's partner is called Colin, so I'm always a bit embarrassed.
So you've worked with some of the greats throughout history, obviously Laurence Olivier and Gielgud and Ralph Richardson. Is there a modern upcoming star that you're seeing now that you really rate?
There's a couple of boys around, and girls, particularly some wonderful young women and tremendous young women actors now. I mean, I no, my since the book, it's a kind of case of no names, no pack drill. You know, I'm sort of kind of going, yeah, I won't go there.
Yeah. You haven't been cowed, Brian, have you?
No, I haven't been cowed, but it's, you know, there are some amazing, you know, actors. But my annoyance, though, about the generation of actors is the lack of the working class actors.
Yeah.
You know, coming from that kind of background.
They can't afford to go to drama school.
Well, they can't, and that's what's... I mean, I was a kid, I came from Dundee, I left school at the age of 15, I had no qualifications whatsoever, and I was given a full grant. I had all my education paid for, I had my expenses paid for, I had my allowances paid for, and that was when we were supposed to be poor.
You had a living room.
And, you know, and I had a bed sitter, which I paid a handsome sum of £3.50 for. It was amazing.
Well, talking of jobs, you haven't always been a successful actor, have you? In the 80s, there was a bit of a lull, and didn't you take a job in a spa waxing?
I went I helped create a gym called Holmes Place, which became quite
Oh, yeah, I know that for a bit.
And we're the original Holmes Place, and we started it. We were all members of a gym it was in High Street, Kensington, called the West Side Health Club, and there was a sort of rebellion, and everybody left, and they started this gym, and I was going through a time where I was not very happy, and I was out of work. And I was turning down theatre work stupidly because I wanted to do television and it wasn't happening, so that was the way it was. So I took this job behind the desk, booking bikini waxes and the like.
Jane needs one for tomorrow.
And it was just funny, you know, you'd get some Swedish ladies who'd come in and they would sort of look at me and say, "Have you ever been to any of my parties?" And I said, "What kind of wax would you like, madam?"
So moving on to Succession, obviously, because we don't want to run out of time before talking about that. Logan Roy, is he the sort of the closest character to you in personality?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I have an empathy for Logan Roy. I think he's a little misunderstood, actually. I mean, he's a self-made man. He probably started off at one side of the political spectrum and ended up at the other side of it through experience and through disappointment. I mean, we're both... The one thing we share in common is a disappointment with the human experiment. We do believe that, you know, look at the current crisis we're living.
I was going to say, do you swear as much as your screen
I do now.
Yeah,
I never used to, but I do now.
Well,
It's totally infectious.
But you did say he has a propensity for absence and a tendency to disappear that you share.
Yeah, it's a defense mechanism, and it's a kind of insecurity, really, when you know, because of my childhood was so... I mean, I didn't really feel it because I just got on with it. But when you look back, you realise that there was a lot of sense of being absent. You were already absent because you didn't have a dad, you didn't have a mum, and you were on your own. And I had these sisters who were great, but they were also getting on with their own lives, you know, having their children, because they're much older than me. And so I kind of had that thing of bowing myself out in order to survive, so that I didn't become over-attached to something. When you get over-attached, you get to a state where you become, you know, it can hurt. So I thought, OK, I won't do that. But the problem is it got into a habit. So sometimes with my own kids, I'm a little bit absent, or I have been a little bit absent. I try to be a bit more present now. You know.
Now, we're just running out of time, but I want to take you back to the 60s, 1965 to be precise, where you had a bit of a sliding door moment, where there was a near miss on a flight.
Yes.
At Heathrow, was it?
Yes, it's ironic about Elton. Yeah, I was scheduled to go and see... I was having an audition with Laurence Olivier, and I was working in the Lyceum in Edinburgh, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and I was all packed. My bags was ready to go, and the stage doorkeeper said, "There's a wee message in your cubbyhole. I just found it. It was for you." And he pulled it out, and he said, "Yeah, oh," it says here. And he looked at it, and I said, "My audition had been cancelled, so I wasn't going to go." So I sat there thinking, oh, God. So afterwards, I had my bag. I went to the pub, the local pub there, which is called the Shakespeare, ironically enough. And I was sitting there and thinking, do I go? Do I stay? What do I do? And I thought, oh, to hell with it. I'll stay. I won't go. So I went home, and the next morning on the Sunday Post, there was a stop, you know, that thing called Stop Press, and there was a little red, and there was a Stop Press thing that said, you know, everybody, that plane from Turnhouse had crashed, killing everybody aboard.
Oh, no. My goodness.
And so Laurence Olivier saved my life.
Yeah.
You know, so that was amazing.
Good old Sir Lawrence. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think I
Thank
could have
you.
done the
It's been
whole
an
show
honour.
with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brian's book, Putting the Rabbit in the Hat, is out now, and it's a fantastic read. We all loved it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Still to come, why Rihanna and Leonardo DiCaprio apparently didn't make the first cut at their friend's wedding bash, and our advice on how to deal with a noisy neighbour. We're back in a few minutes.
Stay for a white wedding. It's a nice
Hello again. In just a moment, from noisy neighbours to wedding party snubs. But first, we've had a massive response from all of you at home to our chat about carers earlier. Carers UK have got actually more direct helpline numbers for anyone who would like further information. It's 0808 808 7777. So use that one, please. Now, competition once again now. It's Craig Doyle back with all the details.
All this week, I've been on a road trip as we're giving you the chance to win a prize worth £120,000 in tax-free cash.
Don't forget the 90 grand. It's yours. Do whatever you want with it. Just play with it. Do something fun. Do something new. And on that, I'm about to do something new. Glass blowing. Honestly, you never thought I'd be saying that, would you? Is it very difficult? Because it looks little.
It's a little bit difficult, but I'm sure you'll have a good go. And now we'll be ready to blow.
Oh, this is the bit.
Gently to begin with, then increase the pressure.
While I blow away here, here's how you enter.
For your chance to win, text WIN to 86060. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Go to the website, entries cost £2. Call 09068 786060. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and phone number to DY08, PO Box 7558, Derby, DE10NQ. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close on Friday, the 25th of March at 3 p.m.
Look, I made a thing. Just think what you could make with 90 grand in cash. You can even buy one of these. I mean, they're very, very expensive.
Now, picture the scene. You've had a busy day, you're in a deep sleep, snoring away until... and then... Yes, it's your pesky neighbour doing the housework again at 4 a.m. That's the problem of one woman who says it's inconsiderate of those who live above her. Now, surely she's got a point, Linda.
Yeah, she has got a point. 4 a.m.'s silly, isn't it? I mean, up till 12 o'clock at night, that should be all right to do hoovering and put your washing on and that. I mean, I left home...
Sorry, say that again?
Up till about 12 o'clock, because my
To
neighbour...
midnight? On at 12,
But my
day.
neighbour is my son. He lives downstairs to me, so he don't mind if I put the washing... He does moan now and again.
If you lived above me and you're putting your washing on at midnight, I'd be there with the broom handle going, shut up!
No, but I left home early this morning. Normally, I would put a wash on before I left, but I wasn't supposed to be in today, so I was called last minute. So my house would be like a bomb zit when I get home. There'll be trouble when I get in that house if it's not tidy when I
Why
get
do
there.
you do your washing at night? Just out of interest. I very, very, very occasionally do it, but I check with my neighbour next door to hear if she can. But then I'm only doing the 20-minute cycle. I'm not doing...
Mine's only a small cycle, but I've got the same bra on that I've had on for I don't know how many years, so I have to wash it every night.
Information.
Katie, if one of your neighbours was really noisy, would you confront them?
Right, I've got to say this is a real weakness of my personality. I'm an absolute wet blanket. I hate confrontation and I will avoid it at all costs. So I'd probably grumble about it behind the neighbour's back to Richie and then never actually confront
But what
them.
about going and being a nice confrontation and saying, excuse me, but...
I'm a big believer in communication. So you don't know who you've got living next door to you and it's your duty to find out. You know, have they got a newborn baby? Do they work nights? Have they got insomnia, mental health problems? So I would try and connect with people and talk to them and just keep an open dialogue and be a bit considerate. But yeah, I always end up people-pleasing for the neighbours.
Are you a people pleaser, Janet?
I was thinking, what language has Katie just used? She could have been talking in Urdu. I understood nothing of the last paragraph.
I need you to advocate for me. That's what I need.
Advocate you, right, OK. If in the summer people are having in their back gardens dinner, that's fine, and then drinks, that's fine. But if I'm going to work the next day and they're still out there braying in their entitled voices at 11 o'clock at night, I'm afraid...
Do an impression. Go on.
I open the window and I go, can you shut up? Some of us, some people in this street, go to work first thing in the morning.
I'd burst into tears if I was the neighbour.
So you are the nightmare neighbour?
I'm not a nightmare, I'm stating my position.
OK, so state your position on this one, then. So would you be offended if you were only invited to the evening do of a wedding? So Edward Enninful, Vogue editor, got married, and even Leonardo DiCaprio and Rihanna only went to the evening event.
I literally thought that was the norm. You have your tiers of guests, your top tier. They come
Tiers? What's your wedding? The Football League? You're the Premier League or Champions League?
Everyone has their A and B list, and if B's can't make it, you've even got a C list, sometimes a seat fillers.
Would it be kinder to say day and night list?
It's fine. I'd be thrilled, actually, because the daytime's so formal. To come to the evening bit's quite a good laugh. And I think if you're a good friend, I'm just happy when they've got married. If I'm not invited to all of it, so be it, you know.
Well, I would have been thrilled to be invited to that particular evening bash that we're talking about, because I could have arrived at the same time as Leo DiCaprio. And that
See, another one on the Janet must-have list.
He's a bit young for me, but or I'm a bit old for him. I'm about 50 years too old for him. I have been invited to things in the weddings in the evening, and I'm never offended at all, because if people are having a lunch and it's for family and a few close friends, number one, you don't have to sit through all the speeches, which, as we know, can go on for hours and be incredibly boring. Plus, you can have one knockout dress in the evening and look great, not something all screwed up with a few vol au vents dropped down it.
No, I'd be happy just to go in the evening. I mean, if you go over daytime, it's normally a really long day, and you're sitting in the church, and then you've got to go listen to all the speeches afterwards. And I think really, and also the daytime is for family and close friends, and then the rest of us come into another tier, the lower tier.
What are you? And also on
lower
board.
tier, upper tier,
and then class.
Oh, shut up, you. And then we can go have an evening, and we can get all dressed up and look nice and arrive in the evening and still see the bride in her dress and see
If you get
everybody.
offended, you're making it about you, and it's about them, isn't it? I don't
But doesn't
think
it...
you should...
What if it was somebody really, really close to you that you would think, I would totally be, you know, invited to the day thing?
No, I think the closer you are, the person would feel like, look, we can't afford it, or we've got to prioritise so-and-so, and they'd know they're so close with you that you won't put up a stink, and it's fine. You know, I would feel more honoured that they could be real with me.
I can't believe we're all agreeing on something.
Oh, I know.
It's a world
So for your
first.
next wedding...
That's the Brian Cox effect. No, I'm not talking about
For your next wedding, what am I going to be, daytime or nighttime?
Well,
also on board.
Katie Piper
Reserve list.
is the voice of reason, and goodness knows we need one on this panel. OK, tomorrow, friend of the show, Kate Thornton, joins her old mates Carol and Denise live right here. Until then, have a lovely afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.